So today we're going to make my version of Rocky Road. So Rocky Road's a nice chocolate, cold refrigerated chocolate with biscuit, marshmallow, and I put some sultanas in mine. There's lots of different recipes, lots of different ways to do it. Mine uses chocolate, bit of golden syrup, some marshmallows, rich tea biscuits and sultanas. Don't forget the full recipe will be on my blog, which is at www.howtomakecakes.co.uk. So the recipe for my Rocky Road is as follows. We've got 310 grams of dark chocolate. Now I like to use a sort of 70% chocolate. This is Lindt 70%, just is a bit better quality and a bit better taste. We've got unsalted butter, 125 grams. I've got 2 tablespoons of golden syrup. The biscuit I'm using is rich tea biscuits, 200 grams. Now some recipes suggest digestive biscuits. I think these make it a bit more crunchy and a bit nicer. Marshmallows, these are the mini marshmallows, 100 grams. If you can only get the big marshmallows, then you can just cut them up. And I had 75 grams of sultanas. So it's a very easy recipe. The first thing we're going to do is put the butter, the chocolate and the golden syrup in a saucepan and melt that down. And in with the golden syrup, and then we'll go over and put it on the heat and melt this down before adding the crunchiness. So to melt this down, just start off on a low heat and the butter will start to melt first, and then the chocolate and golden syrup will just melt into it. So just nice and slowly, keep stirring it and it will all melt down. So it will very quickly all melt down. I've just turned the heat off now once it's pretty much done, and you're just left with a nice chocolate sauce. And what I'm going to do before we mix everything in, I'm just going to set a little bit aside because we're going to pour that on top of the Rocky Road at the end. So it's not too much. You can see how much I put in here. I don't know, probably 100 ml, something like that. Just set that aside and we'll use that for the topping shortly. We've got to break up the biscuits. So I normally just put them in a sort of food bag like this, or you can just put them on a chopping board. It's just keeps them all together here. So put them in the bag, and then we want to, I'm just using sort of a meat hammer or a rolling pin, and what we want is a mixture of sort of crumbs and reasonable sized pieces. So just break it down without making it into complete crumbs. Don't worry if some comes out, we can just tidy that up. Just break that all down so you haven't got any whole biscuits anymore, and you've got some nice crunchy bite-sized pieces of biscuit. That looks fine. So once that's done, all there is really to do now is add our dry ingredients. So first of all, take the biscuits that we've chopped up, or bashed up rather, pour all of those in, give that a quick mix through, and then we've got our lovely soft marshmallows and raisins to contrast to the crispness of the biscuits. Pour that all in and mix it all up so everything becomes coated in the chocolate mixture. So once everything's nicely coated in chocolate, we're ready to put it in the tin. Now this is a 9-inch square tin. That's about the right size to use. Use a rectangular one if you prefer. It's just lightly greased, and we're just going to put all this in and then flatten it right down. So just pour everything out of your saucepan into the tin. Make sure you get all of the chocolate and all of the mixture out. and then really put some pressure on it so that it gets all squashed down, so it's going to be a nice solid biscuit when it comes out. And it will seem a little uneven, and that's why we've kept our remaining chocolate, because we're going to pour that on the top to cover any gaps. So squash it all down. So once you've squashed it down as flat as you can go, we've just got our remaining chocolate that we set aside, and just pour that over any areas where the biscuit's showing or where there are some gaps, and that'll just neaten it up and leave it with a flatter surface. And you just spread that across so that hopefully what you see more is the chocolate on the top rather than seeing through to the biscuit. So once you've just covered that in the chocolate, all we're going to do is refrigerate it now, and I would say the minimum time is probably 2 hours. Ideally leave it overnight, and then it'll be nice and set, and then you can cut it into squares, put some icing sugar on, and it's done. So that's it for now. We'll put it in the fridge and we'll have a look at it when it's... So this one's been in the fridge for about 3 to 4 hours now, so I'm just going to cut it up. You can feel it's nice and solid. So just cut it into whatever size squares you want. It's easier to cut it in the tin and then take it out. It is quite hard, so you need to put some effort into cutting it. So you can see I've sort of cut it into squares, and then hopefully it lifts out and you can see all the yummy biscuit and marshmallow inside. So I'm going to put it out on a plate and then cover it in a nice layer of icing sugar. You could have done that before, but it gets a bit messy taking it out, so I find it's easier to get it out and then we'll put the icing sugar on. So once they're all out, I normally get an icing sugar shaker, or just put icing sugar through a sieve and give it a nice coating of icing sugar, and it looks really good, like lovely, yummy Rocky Road. And there we have my Rocky Road. Don't forget, the full recipe is on my blog, which is at www.howtomakecakes.co.uk.